נתניהו.
הצלחה בבעיה. אבל ניסה צריך מגזר. זה ברכה והצלחה. שתפעל ולתושיע.
באתי לבקש את זה.
בכל העניינים.
גם האישיים, גם הלאומיים.
מה שיתרון לאחרונה, נתצו כמה עניינים.
לקחו כמה.
מה שרואה עוד, וגם משהו שעדיין משאיר ליבו. אז הייתה מה שהוא ומה ידיעתו.
ועושים.
הכנראה שהיא מספיק, כאילו שהיום כבר כמה שעות בגיל עדיין ליבו, אבל יש עוד כמה שעות, אבל יש להשתדל גם היום.
Thank you all. And of course, I want to especially welcome Jared Kushner and Ivanka Trump. Your presence here today is a testament to the importance of this occasion, not only for the Trump administration, but in a very personal way, for you. For you, each of you, for the pursuit of peace, and for President Trump himself. Thank you.
You know, when I was doing the research for this particular show, I discovered some things I wasn't even looking for, and I found them, and I was just absolutely shocked with what I found. And it does start to tie together a lot of issues. And so I think we're going to have a couple of big surprises tonight. And I'd also like to ask the audience, when we get farther into this discussion tonight, there's going to be some things that are going to ring some alarm bells. And as we ring those bells, I want you to keep in mind that when we talk about prophecies concerning the Messiah, there are many, many opinions about what these prophecies mean and how much fulfillment they have. Oftentimes in Scripture, you see minor fulfillments, secondary fulfillments, and then even major fulfillments. Sometimes you see a spiritual fulfillment and not a physical fulfillment, or a physical fulfillment and a spiritual fulfillment. So we're going to be talking about these and what this means and what this looks like coming into the end of the age. I mean, I think there's going to be some surprising material here tonight. The correlation is so close and so alarming that it's going to be a very persuasive discussion tonight. You know, when Daniel began his prayer, I want to just share a little bit of that, beginning of Daniel 9:4. He begins his prayer with, "We have sinned and committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled even by departing from your precepts and from your judgments. Neither have we hearkened unto your servants the prophets, which spoke in your name," interestingly, "to our kings, our princes, and our fathers, and to all the people of the land. O Adonai, righteousness belongs unto you, but unto us confusion of faces, as it is this day, to the men of Yehuda and to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to all of Yasharel that are near and that are far off, to all the countries whither you have driven them, because of their transgression that they have transgressed against you." You know, when I read that prayer, when I was preparing for this show, I thought to myself how accurate Daniel's prayer is now as to how accurate it was in the days of the Babylonian captivity, but how accurate his prayer was now. And we just had the most horrific bill ever passed in New York, allowing for the termination of an infant, even up to the point that the child is entered into the birth canal to be born. I mean, this is such a ferocious abomination against all that is sacred anywhere on earth. But it is common to what we find in this worship of Molech, this idea of sacrificing your seed in the fire, okay? Now, we're not going to get too much into that tonight, but the point I'm raising is that we have reached a point where the cup of iniquity in the United States is full and flows over. The wine of our fornication flows over the cup of iniquity, and only judgment awaits. Now, we're going to see when we get into the slides in the presentation tonight that Daniel 9 does have an application for us now. It does have an application for us now. And we're also going to see that a lot of the things that you've been taught about Daniel 9 are, shall we say, not exactly accurate. Try to pierce into some of that and see what we can, thresh from the harvest floor, if you know what I mean. We're going to begin here with how Daniel 9 opens. It's important when we talk about prophecy that you first establish the context, okay? And the context here is given to us right in verses 1 and 2. In the first year of Dariavesh, the son of Achashverosh, of the seed of the Medai, which was made king over the realm of the Kasdim, in the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by the Sepharim the number of the years whereof the word of Yahweh came to Yirmiyahu the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem. Okay, so the very first premise here is that we're talking about 70 years, right? This is what he's saying. And we also have a calendar date, which, by the way, we can nail down with particularity as to exactly when this prophecy was given. We're going to nail that down. We're going to look at some calendar dates here tonight, and you're going to see we're going to be able to nail down what's going on. Oftentimes when you read scripture, you're reading of Darius and Artaxerxes and all of these other people. It's like, who are these people? When did they live? And, and how can we figure it out? We're going to be able to see a calendar tonight. If you get a chance to keep this video or to screenshot some of the calendar stuff, you too will have an idea of when these things happen, okay? And these dates are going to prove out important. But one of the things I want to start with here initially is that this is declared to be the realm of the Kasdim, okay? Daniel gives this prophecy, probably no longer in Babylon, the citadel, but rather in Shoshana, the moved citadel. And he is going to give this prophecy in Shoshana in the realm of the Kasdim. Well, who are the Kasdim? Okay, let's look at slide 3. The realm of the Kasdim, who are they? Kasdi, was Strong's 3778, is patronymically from H3777, interesting number, 3777, only in the plural, a Kasdite, or descendant of Kesed, by implication Chaldean or Chaldean, as if so descended, also an astrologer, okay? So who are this Kesed, K-E-S-E-D, who is this Kesed, right? Kesed, which is spelled Kof Shin Dalet, Strong's 3777. It's from an unused root of an uncertain meaning, Kesed, but a relative of Abraham or Abraham, also spelled Chesed, Chesed, okay? Okay, slide 4. The realm of the Kasdim or Kesedim would be a better way to put it. Kesedim are descendants of the Kesed or the Chesed. Consider the word Chesed, Strong's H2617, kindness, piety, beauty, mercy, pity. Chesed, Chesed, spelled Chet Samek Dalet. The Samek, by the way, in Hebrew oftentimes sets forth as secularized, meaning, in other words, it's not a sacred term. It's spelled with a Samek. It's more secularized. Now, Hasidic Judaism or Hasidism is spelled in the Ivrit, Chesedot. Okay, that is to say, Het Samek Yod Dalet. Okay, so you see again, Het Samek Dalet, right? As compared to Kov Samek Dalet, but it's transliterated as Hasidut. Okay, it's a Jewish religious group, and it rose as a spiritual revival movement in contemporary Western Ukraine, also called Khazaria. All right, now, actually, when you look at this, the Khazarian Empire was long since terminated by the time that modern Hasidism arose. Khazarian Empire was long since gone. However, the Khazarian Empire did retain the elements of Babylonian Judaism that were passed down through those centuries. they didn't take on a real rebirth, if you will, until we get to the rise of Maimonides, also known as the Ramban, and this intellectual revolution of the 14th century among the Sephardim Jews in Spain, which caused this revolution in Deutschland, which in the Jewish parlance is called Ashkenaz. Okay, so although Israel ben Eliezer, this is in slide 5, from 1690 to 1760, okay, interesting dates, right? 1690 to 1760, he's known as the Baal Shem Tov, or the master of the good name. Now you see this, Baal Shem Tov, master or lord of the good name, known as a Baali. Okay, acronym, Besht. He is considered the founder of Hasidism, the modern Kasdim or Chestedot, Hasidic Jews, who were born out of the Kabbalah practices of the Sabbatean movement led by Sabbati Tzvi, who declared himself Messiah in 1665. We know, those of you who have studied this Sabbatean movement, this Sabbati Tzvi, that he was in fact a teacher of lawlessness who had converted to Islam. Rabbi Ben Luria was his real name. He had converted to Islam. He went back to Safed, Israel, to try to gain a claim as a Kabbalist, and Rabbi Cordoba kicked him out. Said, go back to Istanbul, where he did. And the Sultan at that time said, no, look, you're Muslim, and if you keep shooting your mouth off, we're going to behead you. And so he proceeded to write this doctrine of Taqiyya, which was consistent, by the way, with the Talmud, that said you can lie. You can lie and present yourself as a Muslim or present yourself as a Christian. Do whatever you need to do to stay alive. It's perfectly acceptable under the Talmud or the Quran, the doctrine of Taqiyya, to lie to anybody you feel like lying to. And he actually promoted a lawlessness. However, he was not the only one in this era promoting lawlessness. If you recall, Martin Luther had answered Paul's question, should we sin that grace might abound? And he answered it in the affirmative, yes, we should. Paul said, no, we shouldn't. Martin Luther said, yes, we should. Martin Luther later repented of that, but initially his doctrine was predicated that grace would abound through the commission of sin because we weren't under the law, all right? A very interesting doctrine, a part of the Reformation.